Good morning, everyone. I believe we'll get started. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the session, Under One Sky, Unite to Protect the Night. This is the Safety Engagement Workshop. So I appreciate you all being here. So a lot of information we're going to be sharing today. We have some great speakers with us. And the goal is to take a look at safety and how we use lighting to address that. A big concern for us as we see a lot of things that are happening in the world today. And we want to take a look at some of the strategies that are out there. So I'll be starting off the session. My name is Art Hushin. We'll be followed by David a little bit later on, and then Paul will start addressing with some of the things he's noticed, and we'll talk about that as well, and along with Amira, who'll be covering another section of the presentation too. The goal, though, is once each presenter has their time to present, after that, we'll do a series of question and answers. So this way we can really get the dialogue going and try to discover what other people are doing, especially when it comes to safety and meeting some of the DarkSky initiatives or strategies we want to apply on the site. So for me, just to kick it off, my name is Art Hushin, founder of the National Institute of Crime Prevention in 1999. And what we focus on is the application of CPTED strategies and training. We do a variety of training, not only in the US and Canada. My background is 30-year retired law enforcement with the Tampa Police Department, assigned to the Special Operations Division. And what we did, we created the first CPTED program in the country. A lot of what I do is focus on urban design and safety. So my emphasis is maybe codifying these standards at a city, county, or state level. I'm also the executive director of the U.S. CPTED Association. So we're looking at opportunities to start setting some of these standards nationally. And we will really want DarkSky to be part of that dialogue as we work with cities to codify that. So when I talk about crime and safety, and especially when we get into working with government, my number one concern is going to be fear of crime. I see that working with our different neighborhood design charrettes, working with community members. Fear is what really takes over. And especially when we start looking at reported crime. Reported crime is a big concern. What we notice here in the US is that we have an increase of violent crime during the hours of darkness. And that impacts the community's ability to use some of the green space, the sidewalks, get outdoors, and mainly just to meet their neighbors. And that is a big concern for us because we have to look at, for most of us, for government to set that standard. So working with politicians, working with different government groups as well, because I understand government and law enforcement, their emphasis is going to be crime reduction. You know, they want to have that numerical value showing that we decrease crime by 20%, 30%. But what they're not capturing is that unreported crime. And that is a big concern because when we look here in the US and start breaking some of the numbers down, we see 40%, 60% of crime that's reported. So we're not capturing all that information. We do discuss that during our community meetings where we work with members of the community, work with the city, and develop that dialogue with people that are actually engaged with the development process as well. I just spoke at a placemaking summit just the other day in Akron, Ohio, and placemaking is one of these great strategies when we think about activating space and public safety. This is the first time we ever spoke about crime and safety. And for me, that's kind of eye-opening because we see not only our lighting professionals involved with this, we see some of our artists involved. We see some of our placemaking strategists involved as they begin to activate the space and engage community members at nighttime. They realize, what's that safety level? What's going to bring people out to use the space? Because we want to have them come out, so they have to feel safe to do that. And that's a key part of what we're going to talk about today is going to be safety, engagement, and how we look at those strategies. One thing that just came up in my state was going to be a new statute. Statute 768.0706, and it's going to be for multifamily apartment complexes. Because I'm based in Florida, Tampa, Florida, we see this a lot of housing. And my frustration is working with government and prior government myself was that no one reached out to anyone from DarkSky or any lighting professional groups as they formalized this by state statute, by law, when it talked about illuminating these multifamily units. They began to set a standard that, again, we had no input on. For example, 1.8 foot candles maintained during the hours of darkness, which means this is going to be lit up all night by state statute. And nothing on fixture design, nothing on light output other than the foot candle or lux requirement. And to keep those lights on entirely during the hours of darkness, that level is a big concern for us. So these are things we want to cover as well. They also listed, for example, lighting all sidewalks during the hours of darkness, lighting porches, lighting common areas that'll be illuminated during the hours of darkness. No shielding, no standards. And so this is a conflict that's created because we don't communicate with everyone as far as what those strategies are. So we made quite a few recommendations for that going into that. Unfortunately, the bill was still signed. And so we're trying to address it later because, again, the lighting was a response to fear and safety. But the lack of dialogue between the groups as far as what can and can't be done was a big concern. All right, so that's kind of my input a little bit on what we're dealing with as far as statutes and states and what we're trying to accomplish. So a big concern for that and trying to address DarkSky strategies too on the site. So our next speaker for this is going to be David. I'm not sure if David was able to make it. David, are you here? All right.
He's not yet.
Not yet. All right, so what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and go to Paul Marchand. So Paul, I think Paul is here. He's going to have a brief presentation for us too. Paul's a UK-based statistician, and what he looks at, he applies healthcare level statistical standards to his studies of lighting and safety. Known for challenging assumptions about brighter lighting, he's published research questioning its efficacy on crime prevention, advocating for evidence-based approaches to light pollution. So Paul, if you're there, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
I'm sorry, Art, looks like we lost Paul as well.
All right. So Amira, we're going to come to you. So I'm glad you're here. I see you sitting right there. So Amira Luna Isadina is a Mozambican Ecuadorian astrophysics student in Chile, co-founded Fatima, okay, I'll let you announce that too, a project providing sustainable lighting in rural areas. And that is so important when we think about people coming out, using the space. Her aim is to make stargazing accessible, emphasizing the connection between astronomy and sustainable development, which is so key to us. So, Mira, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Art, and to the DarkSky for the opportunity to be here. As you know, my name is Amira. I come from Mozambique, as you said. And well, yes, my team and I, we developed a new project. Let me just share my screen. Just a moment. I don't know if you are looking at the screen. There is a kind of poster. Yes.
Yep.
If anyone
yes,
can
we see it.
Yes. I don't know if I can. Yeah. Okay. So no problem. I was saying that my team and I, we developed a project in 2022. 2 years ago that it talks about the preservation of the night skies, but at the same time, the lack of electricity, as Art said, in rural areas of Mozambique specifically. So, Fatima Katingeleti, it means shine of the stars. We started this project as an aim to show people how there is a kind of light paradox in African countries and specifically in Mozambique when it comes to light pollution and lack of electricity. So this project was created by astronomy enthusiasts and, as I said, addresses the dual challenges of light pollution and the lack of electricity. This innovative project proposes eco-friendly public lighting a solution using renewable energy to preserve dark skies and reduce environmental impacts. So the problem is that light pollution is a growing concern worldwide, disrupting ecosystems and human circadian rhythms. In Mozambique, only 44% of the population has electricity access, and this is a big problem. So at the same time, as I said, urban areas are increasing and it contrasts with rural energy scarcity. This imbalance threatens biodiversity, especially nocturnal wildlife. So our solution is to develop an autonomous streetlight prototype incorporating solar panels, wind turbines, and motor sensors. The system reduces light pollution and energy waste, aligning with DarkSky international standards. The luminaire would be durable, sustainable, and adaptable to various environmental conditions. So as you can see, back in 2022, we conducted 2 surveys, which gave us a glance of what people think about our project in the first stage. So people, as you can see, like 90% of them thought that it would create a huge positive impact in our country. And in terms of implementation, we noticed that we could apply this firstly in three main areas. So Bela Vista in Maputo province, Muanza in Sofala province, and Majawa in Zambezia province, which are areas near national parks and biodiversity hotspots, face rising threats from light pollution. So the project aims to protect species and support astronomical research. Well, at least in the impact and future goals, as you can see, the surveys conducted in 2022 reveal overwhelming support of the project, with 90% of the participants anticipating positive outcomes. The solution promises environmental conservation, improved rural lighting, and promotion of African astronomy. As a conclusion, Patima Katinyeleti offers a scalable, sustainable lighting solution that balances ecological preservation with human development. By protecting dark skies, the project contributes to a brighter future for both Mozambique and global environmental sustainability. So I didn't give you so many details because I don't have much time. As I was told, I just have 5 minutes, so I try to make a kind of resume of everything. But if you have any questions concerning the details, I will wait for your answer, for your question, sorry. So thank you so much, and I hope you liked the rapid presentation. Thank you.
Amber, that was great. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that and the work you're doing too as well. So taking a look, I'm looking for our other two presenters as well. Is Paul in here with us? I know Paul had put together a really good oh, Paul, there you are. So I'll let you go to your audio. And what I'll do, Paul, we kind of gave your background as you get ready to present. So what I'm going to do is turn it over to you and let you go ahead with your presentation. So everyone hears Paul.
Hold on.
Yep, we hear you. All right, well, we'll go ahead and let Paul get set up. There it is. Perfect.
There it is.
There it is, Paul. We see it. So
Okay.
good. All right, here we go.
Okay, I'm a statistician, in fact, a chartered statistician of the World Statistical Society. And basically, I've done some research into this. Some of my research is available open access. Some of it, unfortunately, isn't. But in summary, I'm doubtful in general more lighting is key to making us safer from road collisions or crime, basically because the research I've seen that says it does is very poor. Bigger, better, clearer research fails to find benefit when lighting is changed, increased or reduced. I'll primarily talk about the better research, but hopefully in discussion we can raise issues of problematic research. Next slide, where are you? There we go. We need fair tests in any rabbit. Oh, crikey. We need fair tests of whether any remedy works. Governments have regulatory agencies to ensure that it's the case in healthcare. It's not the same in other areas. And in general, there's a widespread concern about the research integrity, that some science is rather poor. One of the ways to make things better is to have a clear plan of work, a clear open access reports, and open access to any studies data to check the result. Any moment now?
Yep, we got it.
Hold on. I shall talk about this better research. Hopefully it'll come up soon. I can't see it. Can you see some graphs on the screen?
No graphs, but we see some text.
Okay, I'm trying to get the next slide up. There we are.
There it is.
So this is research done in Leeds. It's a town, city in the north of England, 750,000 population. It's 54 degrees north, so quite seasonal. So it means it has a lot of dark in winter and not much dark in summer. And basically, the council installed a lot of new white lights to replace the old orange sodium lights. And what this study is tracking what happens to the road crashes, road traffic collisions, and police recorded crimes, PRCs, over 556 weeks, which is about 9 years, nearly 9 years, in 107 areas. Here we have a graph of the installation of these lights. I mean, they installed the lights because they thought it would make life safer. I'll give you the punchline now. There's no evidence that it has. Here, the lights are going in at different rates in 107 different areas. Some get it early, some get it late. And on this side, on the right-hand side, we have what it does to the top one is the road crashes. Now, so what we're showing here is the number, this is the aggregate over all of Leeds, all 107 areas added together. This rising line here is the rising of the new lights having been installed. The dots are the number of crimes, number of road crashes, road traffic collisions in darkness compared to as a ratio with the total number of road collisions in that week. So there's a lot more, so it's very high in midwinter and very low in midsummer, because in midsummer there's not very much darkness. Anyway, so we can see the yearly cycle here going over the nearly 9 years. There's some data at the end which is in error, and when that's taken out, I'd have to tell the authorities I got that bit wrong. Anyway, when we take that bit out, it's still the same. That is a null result for on road crashes of all the new lights in this quite big city, and that's published, and the links are here if anybody wants to look at them. The bottom one is not yet published, but it's on police recorded crimes. A lot more of those. 471,000 go into making up this time series. And again, it's the proportion of crimes occurring in darkness. We see the strong seasonality, basically because there's more darkness in winter than there is and not much in summer. And again, the result is a null result, i.e. can't tell whether there's any change made at all. And actually, it's very, very quite a narrow so-called confidence interval, the plausible range. It could make things 3% better or 7% worse. So on average, it's about, the middle of that range is about 2% increase in crime over the thing. This result is not new. Well, the result that lighting doesn't make much difference, because the UK National Institute for Health and Care Research spent a lot of money examining the issue. That's its number, if you want to look it up. It got no results on 40,000 kilometres of road over several years. The title is The Effect of Reduced Street Lighting, but don't let that fool you, because they also added change to white light in there, and the white light was on 16,000 of these 40 kilometres of road. That is published in a paper, an open access paper, fortunately, by Steinbeck et al. In 2015. My own work, if you look some of that up, will probably got that reference in. I think if I've had my 5 minutes, I do have other slides that I could show, which show the some of the issues of the research shortcomings. Another study which was done in London, which shows areas which don't get light, and other ones which do get light. they're not really different by eye, and a proper analysis, one of these multi-level analyses where you're following all these areas at once. You're modeling the time series of all the areas at one time and seeing what effect it has on it, and it doesn't have any effect. Well, we can't pick out an effect at all. Excuse me. Oh, I've come out. I think I've lost it.
It's still, we still see it. We still see some of your charts.
Okay. You see it. Okay, I don't. Here we go. This is an example I can say more about. This is his road crashes, and it looks a wonderful example of how, as brightness increases here, the night to day crash ratio goes down. But it's not good in the sense that what these points come from grouping the data, and when you group, you have a choice of being able to choose the groups, and it makes it looking very smooth and very clear. And in fact, it's got this goodness of fit thing, the R squared of 0.99. I mean, anybody who gets a 99% figure for this it's just unbelievable. In fact, these people who produce this stuff wouldn't give me their data, so I had to do it on similar data. And this is what happens when you get grouping, but this is what happens when it's ungrouped. It gives a totally different picture. For example, in this one, you get an over 90% again in this R squared measure, but only 6% if it's ungrouped. There's some stuff in this paper here which tells you just how bad this research is. So I urge people to learn up, to read up on it, and perhaps get to understand a bit of what statistical reasoning does. Some of it can be very simply explained, and I'm happy to do that. But perhaps I've had my fair share here for the moment, but we're perhaps in the thing. A lot of my work is open access and is available. I would encourage people interested in dark skies to encourage other competent statisticians to take an interest in light pollution, so that the data and the whole issue of how effective lighting is at reducing public safety or affecting public safety. So I would like to do that. And also important, the last thing here, please don't like my work because you like the conclusions, i.e. that lighting doesn't make a lot of difference to people's safety. You should like it because of the scientific logic, and that is what we scientists try and do. So, okay, I'll leave it there. Is that okay?
All right, that's good, Paul. And also the links were provided. So you'll see that in the column. If you want to download those, please take a look at those, the studies. And
okay, thank you.
Please feel free to share that information with Paul as well. So, Paul, thank you so much for providing that information. Thank you. I just want to check to make sure. I want to make sure we give David an opportunity to see if he's here. David's going to be based out of France, so just kind of throwing it out there. David, are you here? All right. So no David yet. All right. So that's good. And he had a great program too. I was looking forward to listening to it. Talks about how they set some of the standards for turning off all lights at night. And several cities in France have been kind of focusing on that as well. What we talked about is maybe 1,500 cities that adopted this at about 11 p.m. that they go to total lights out. And they're trying to reach some more cities to do that as well. So it's a great initiative. Hopefully you manage to join us so we can discuss that in more detail as well. So we'll see if we get here during the day. So I know a question came up as far as getting it out for people to ask questions. If there's anything you want to cover, coming back to safety, things that you might deal with as far as what you're seeing as you go out and promoting a lot of the Dark Skies initiatives or standards. We're looking at some of the pushback, especially from not the legal side, but the government side of it, as we begin to look for those standards. What does the community want to see as we're reaching out and holding these workshops and engaging them? What is their perception of crime and fear of crime? And that's a big concern that we see going from city to city. Amir, when you promote this, and I'm just going to throw this at you as well, is there any positive or negative feedback from government as you begin to speak to them or promote this? And what are you hearing from them?
Well, at least for now, we're still on the first stage of the initiative. As for now, we haven't reached the government yet. So we plan to do that. But firstly, we would really like to improve our model in order to present something better. And as for now, unfortunately, like the government are not really thinking about this as a problem. So we would have to present it as a huge problem in contrast with the positive impact it would generate on the people living in these rural areas. And well, we would consider that they would be interested afterwards. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Go ahead, Paul.
I was just saying, lots of councils already, they're not waiting for statisticians like me to make the case, but from their own experience, they are dimming lights around the country because they feel, basically, not for dark skies so much as for saving them money, because I think the lighting fixtures, not so much electricity being used, and the lighting lamps, they last longer if you're not run so hard. So it's a win-win, it's win-round for them. So that's that's what's happening.
And Paul, that's an excellent point too.
Huh?
I said that's an excellent point too when it comes down to finances and funding, community taxation. Yeah.
Because I think that's more likely to win the day than concerns about even biodiversity, which I think is a big concern. We're changing the planet in a major way. Can I just say something on fear of crime? Basically, I mean, it doesn't really. We're the human Homo sapiens is a daytime species, so no wonder we feel a bit nervous about darkness. It's not our natural habitat, and presumably owls and bats and other nocturnal species feel a bit the same way about light, and we should give them a break, of course. In some ways, I do think obviously people feel it, but it is, in my book, an irrational fear. I mean, partly because the science, if lighting does make much difference in general, it ain't very much. That's the bottom line. So that is my bit on.
Oh yeah, I agree with you. And looking at some of the politicians too, or what they want to see, because I hear cities here, especially in the States, talking about we're 24-hour cities. We have activity all the time during the evening hours. We see establishments staying open until 2 or 3 in the morning. We see people out exercising at nighttime. So then we looked at enhanced illuminated corridors, especially at universities and campuses. So students want to go out and jog. We don't want them running on a side street. So what universities are doing are adding more lighting along corridors. But like you said, I think they're being a little more responsive to the type of light fixtures they put out there. So again, and whether it's going to be financially, like you mentioned, which is a really good point, or they're going to be friendly to the environment.
Well, indeed, one of the issues is the finances, that there is developing the nighttime economy, so-called, that people go out, so they spend more money, often getting themselves terribly drunk and probably making.
Well, I won't say that. I won't say terribly.
Pushing costs onto the house services and things like that, So I don't think that all these things are entirely they're complicated situations. So
I see that. Yeah. And Amir, do you see when we talk about the rural areas versus to the cities and the metropolitan areas? Do you see anything similar with that when we think about the rural areas and lighting, as far as feeling of safety?
In terms of crime?
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Like in most areas in Mozambique, like we have low criminality, like we don't have like high rates of criminality in Mozambique, at least for now, fortunately. But we have seen an increase, especially in urban areas. I don't think that it is yet a huge problem, the thing of being in darkness versus a increase in criminality. But my city, which is the capital city of Mozambique, which is Maputo, is increasing a lot, like within time. So it may be a future problem. So the thing with light pollution is like getting to promote education on the matter, and so we can prevent future problems. Because African countries, as mine, they are like fastly growing through time. So we have to think about the near future and how we can prevent this type of problems from happening, looking at other countries which are already facing them. So yeah.
Yes.
Good point. Yeah.
Learn from others' mistakes. That's
Exactly.
that's the thing.
So we've got a few questions coming in, so I'm just going to toss this out there. We'll start with Stephanie. What does the anecdotal evidence from law enforcement look like, and what are they saying about lighting and crime? So I'm going to answer that live, if that's okay, and we can all kind of jump into that. One of the programs we talk about here in the States is the Omnipresence program that was done by the city of New York with law enforcement. And what they did was they illuminated areas that were high in crime, mainly housing. And they were talking 60,000 lumens, 100,000 lumens. And the sad part, but good part, because they flooded the air with light, was a 34% reduction in nighttime crime. So for them, that was the best strategy. We have the numbers there. Go ahead, Paul.
Well, this is a problem. I mean, Francis Galton, who was Charles Darwin's nephew, I think, or cousin. Anyway, he came out of the thing regression towards the mean. And one of the problems with lighting trials or tests is that they give the lighting to the worst places. Yeah. Now, it's a bit like if you roll a dice and you get a 5 out of, okay, 6-sided dice get a 5. Your chances of getting a lower value are much higher, much bigger than getting a big one. It's called regression towards the mean. I have a piece in the International Encyclopedia of Social Sciences on this fact, and it just it's just, if you do get it, because things go up and down anyway, right? And so I don't think that's a very good test at all. You need to compare like with like, as I started out saying in my piece, that you've got to have fair tests, and that isn't a fair test. I'd wonder what would happen if they turn. I mean, okay, you could look at high crime areas. You could try some with very bright lights and some with no light at all. You could do all sorts of things, gradations of lights. And I think there are problems in research design that people think they know what they're doing with data, but they don't. I mean, I thought I knew what I was doing with data when I was 50 years ago, when I was researching astrophysics. I thought I knew a lot about statistics. Nowadays, after a career in it, and a higher degree in statistics too, and chart statisticians say, no, I don't. It's a hard subject. It's a very hard subject, dealing with things, and you have to think of all the angles. So
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, sorry. That's
okay. I like what you said about being informed too, and not understanding. Again, working with government, their big thing is like, here's our crime reduction, which is one of the strategies: fear, perception, and crime reduction. And when they can throw those numbers out, I don't think they ask the statisticians to get involved with that, because, hey, look, we were successful. We use light to deter crime, poorly though. But again, they show the numbers, and we see that on the law enforcement side too. We have another question coming in too. I'll let you go ahead, Paul, and then we'll go to the next question. Go ahead, Paul.
I was just saying, I mean, one of the issues in all research is publication bias, is that the research that gets pleasing results gets published more. We don't have a kind of level playing field of what gets published. It's the stuff that is exciting, a bit like tabloid newspapers. They like the kind of juicy stuff. So it's called publication bias in the trades, and that is a problem. One of the reasons why healthcare trials, drug trials, have to be registered is so that you don't disappear the results you don't like. And I'm not
Right.
sure that is the case with, well, no, it's not the case with
Mhm.
with lighting. Sorry.
No, that's okay. So we got another question in from Brian. Questions on the lead study. What was population growth over the same period? We understand that changed to LED and the lights got whiter, but did the light level increase as well? Again, looking at how lights function.
This was, I can answer that. I think if I got it right, is this was low pressure sodium to halogen light. I think it was. It wasn't LED. The National Institute for Health Research study included other cities, other towns, and some of that was LED when they were looking at change to white light, but not in Leeds. The population growth, I think, is, well, not that much. I mean, it's an old established industrial city, basically, Leeds. It would be, I don't know, it was over a period of 9 years. I don't know how much it goes up in there. I mean, I could look at the census things, but I've got maybe 10,000 out of 750,000, maybe. But I am guessing it hasn't been very much growth in it. You know, it's still the same. And let's just say, if you look at crimes, you can look at the number of crimes at night, number of crimes a day. Crime is going down, despite what people say about it in the UK and in many countries. I understand, you know, it actually is reducing, but people seem to be more jumpy about it.
Yeah, you see that too. Yeah. So we got another question too. Megan posted this one for us. What are some approaches to shift public perception on the issues of safety if it is an irrational fear, to use Paul's words? And I can jump in on that one too. And then Paul and Mary, if you want to go into that with me as well. Approaches, what we find is a lot more what we call working with communities, community charrettes, getting them involved, understanding what lighting is, because the public, working with them, and I'm sure, Amir, you see this as well, here's the lighting we're looking for, and the public thinks we just need light. So some of the statutes I look at, for example, for our housing, they go, must provide 1.8 foot candles of light. And I'm like, what type of light? You know, can I use coal? Can I use oil? Because it's really not specific on the type of light source. And so education, communication, these workshops that we're holding, again, can help address that, because fear, again, going back to fear, and not having the information, kind of like what Paul mentioned on some of the studies out there, becomes a big concern. So, Amir, anything you see as far as the public perception, as far as when you talk about some of the dark sky standards?
Well, in terms of public perception, I can see that there is a lot of ignorance within the Mozambican community. As you said, they are just concerned that they do not have, for example, the basic need of electricity. They are not concerned about the type of light that is given to them, as far as they have electricity and light. So this is a main problem, because they will try to have the basic need in any way they can, right? So even with lanterns and, as you said, some lamps, they will have the need. But for that, we have to educate them and promote new ways of lighting using like certain sustainable ways, because otherwise we will repeat the same mistakes as in other countries are happening, that instead of having lack of electricity, we will have like a huge show of light pollution. So that's not something we want. So we want to prevent that from happening. And that's why we need to educate the people and tell them that, okay, you need light, yes, okay. But we have to think about the near future and the impact light has on the environment, even within the human health, you see. So it affects our health.
Oh, yeah, very much so.
Yeah, we have to engage them and make them know the proper ways to illuminate those areas, and also improve the lighting inside the urban areas as well, because the lighting we're using in Mozambique is like the bright lights and not LEDs mostly. So they're trying to change, but it's a very like low change. We
Right.
have to increase the community and also the law enforcement, because in Mozambique, for example, we don't have any law, like specifically any law talking about this. We just have like laws talking about how people from other international companies can help improve the access to electricity, but they do not talk about this type of a problem in terms of light pollution. So that's something we must try to convince the government to implement some law that talks about light pollution and order like the how can I say, the access to electricity and access to lighting through international and national companies.
Very nice. Yeah, but again, it's a good point to go into that as well, as far as education and the standards. I saw one of the chats just popped up and it said, well, people need to have light to see their pathway and their walkway. And I agree with that. I sat on the IS Security Lighting Council for a bit and got to see what some of their standards are. And then we get into lighting for security and safety. Go ahead, Paul.
Certainly, we don't want to trip up or anything like that. We don't want to go in pitch darkness. But I think I think people, education, across the world on these matters is very important. But I think people would prefer to have a romantic dinner by candlelight than they would under a kind of high security lamp. It's just makes you feel odd in that kind of thing. Also, the issues are not just the light, but the shadows it creates. And in fact, the fact that your eyes and brain get adapted to the bright light, and then you can't see as you go into a bit of shadow. Even with before they started dimming lights latterly in lately, fairly recently in Leeds, they would find that if you had a bright, when the LEDs first went in, high, you walk past a parked car and you would not be able to see the ground beneath you because it was in the shadow, this dark shadow of the of the street from the car.
That obstruction,
bright street light.
And working with governments too in cities now, dealing with dark adaptation. Again, so this is a big discussion we had. What is the minimum amount of light that we need to create that lighting for social interaction and community engagement? And I know there's different standards for security cameras, what they look for, and the different Kelvin temperature. And I know there's warm lighting for human interaction, kind of like what you mentioned, romantic evening in the park or grabbing some food there. But the industry and the cities try to get that balance. And that's what we're dealing with right now, at least in the States. For example, New York has a different standard. They flood it with light. But then I go to the Midwest, it's warm lighting. Again, we don't want to flood it with lighting. So it's looking at that national standard and the different groups that are out there, for example, IES, DarkSky, ASIS. I don't think some of them speak the same language, and that's a big concern. Again, and that education being the key, working on the law enforcement side and training, we actually, when we do these assessments, we talk about lighting, and we also list what they have to identify as light pollution and light trespass. So we're working with people in the field that are doing these safety assessments, and we want them to highlight that this is wasted light. This creates that dealing with dark adaptation, like you mentioned, Paul. We've got to provide that uniformity, but we've got to not at the upper level, but kind of the people doing this every day. And then we maybe have it filtered from the bottom up to here's the standards we look for too. And that comes back to what Amira said as well, the training and understanding what we need to have there. We've got a couple of questions coming up, so let me get these up here on the screen. All right, this is going to be from Tom Reiner. In the U.S., most police departments encourage more lighting for safety. How do we educate police to make them allies for safe and responsible lighting? So I have an answer for that, but I'll let you guys answer that. What you think might be a good answer for that. So I'll turn it over to both of you as well. So Amir, let me start with you, Amir, because you're going to be working with maybe law enforcement in the future as we talk about those standards. What do you think you do to encourage them to promote lighting for safety?
In terms of the police, let me just read again the question. Okay, so police is, I think that we should firstly have like them trained in order for them to understand the importance of the matter. And then when they understand the matter, of course, they will see the importance and then transmit it in the best way they could. for the people. But as for now, we have a lot of work yet to be done in Mozambique for that to happen. But I've always wanted to contribute for my country's growth. So I'm very positive on that, and I hope I can be of future contribution. So let us think that the polices will help too.
Right there. Paul, what do you think as far as educating police to make those allies for safe and responsible lighting?
Well, I suppose, look at the evidence. I mean, it just the good quality stuff that's come out doesn't show that it works basically to reduce crime or.
Yeah, and again, given the tools.
So it doesn't, it's.
Yeah, we actually do a 4-hour session too, as far as we take them out in the field, we show them how a lighting survey is conducted, getting into keeping it on the ground. That's the emphasis that we always tell law enforcement. What do you need to light? The ground, where people are. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah. But also, I think there's a thing a bit like they feel they have to do something. I mean, it's a bit like the doctors give you a prescription, whether it's any good or not, because people expect it. They can't say, "Well, I don't know." There's not much you can do. Clearly, I mean, the fact that crime is very volatile. It very goes up and down a lot. All sorts of interactions, gangs, what's going on, fashions, even. That make it volatile, means it is sort of unpredictable, and it's not even when you've got like the study I was showing with thousands of cases. It's hard to find any signal from lighting in it at all. Well, in fact, I haven't found any signal from lighting in it. But they feel that you've got to kind of be able to say something. And I think many, and even home security. If you get burgled, say put some light up there, or not, even before.
Yeah.
But there's no, I know of no randomized control trial like you'd have in a medical test where you test for drugs that shows whether it works or not. Maybe it just, as somebody was saying in the opening session, it just shows you're a bit nervous and your house is empty and you've got stuff worth stealing. I don't know. It's hard to know whether these things work at all.
Oh yeah, we get that too. Like, we're lighting up the space, inviting offenders to the property. I hear that too. So we need to have darkness. I'm like, well, no, darkness hides the offender. So again, like you said, it's that back and forth. We got another question, so let me throw this out here first too. This is going to be from Vanessa Frank. Many municipalities switch off at night in Europe, even more since 2022. We focus a lot on wrong fears and also have been doing monitoring for some time. Some people feel fear if they are alone at night, even at highly lit places. These are wrong fears in rocky time, but we can clearly see that light doesn't prevent crime and more so enables crime. Some units have been switching for more of that than a decade. Good question when we look at that too, switching over. But then again, like Paul mentioned, we have the data looking at, but it's the wrong kind. So again, the government can show that, and they come back and said, yes, lighting does prevent crime based off their research. So you got those mixed signals, and it comes back to that data. What is the right, and education is part of it as well. And so hopefully we take a look at that. Amir, you want to cover that one as well, as far as what we see in Europe with that, as far as the lighting or that fear of being alone at night?
I think like African communities in general, I think they do not have much more of that fear because, as I said, most of the African communities in rural areas, they still have the scarcity of electricity. So they're very much used to the dark. And so that's something that has been historical. And I do not think that this is a problem there. But I think it's the other way around. Like, people are afraid that they will lose their connection to the dark sky because it's something related to religious matters too. So as from the past, so to the ancestors, they looked at the sky. So this is something that has to do with historical terms. And if they lose that darkness, it's a huge problem for them too. So yeah.
That's wow. I would not have thought of that. I deal so much with municipalities, and again, just light. I don't think about some of the other issues that are dealt with. Paul, you had something to comment as well.
I was say, you mentioned, we've got the data, but it isn't just the data, it's where the data comes from, how it's collected and how it's analyzed, and whether it's like people grouping stuff to make a point, like that road traffic thing, which was falling, but when you look at it spread out, it's not quite such a clear picture. It's sort of, so that is one thing. Also, could I mention, rather than necessarily lighting up everything, people with the modern mobile phone have got a torch in it, so you can, or flashlight, as you say in the USA. You can find your way with there. You can see where you're going if you want to. So rather than putting up, great poles with lamps on, maybe you can do that instead.
And we got another question too coming from Daniel Adams. Another aspect of safety at night is automobile accidents involving pedestrians or bicyclists. What have you found regarding the impact of lighting on this? And Paul, I know you touched on that a little bit. You kind of just want to go over it a little bit more with that question.
Wow. This own study in Leeds was couldn't find any benefit from the new white lights as opposed to the old orange lights. Again, it was sold to the council, and the council had to go to the government to get hundreds of millions, £100 million to change the lighting, and it was based, and it was one of the things in their business case was making claims about reduction of road crashes. Road safety was in there, and I say the research my research done in Leeds has not seen any there. I must admit the confidence interval, this range of plausible values, is quite wide. This NIHR, the National Institute for Health Research study, titled "Reduced Lighting," but it's actually got increased lighting, white lighting, as well in it. Couldn't find it. It was very positive about not being able to find any benefit of the change to white light. And interestingly, the only statistically significant result that I could see in the whole study, and it was based on, say, more data than the lead study. Have a look at it, and do look it up. You'll see the numbers in the paper. The only statistically significant result was what lighting change in London. It actually increased road crashes. I think that is the one. So yeah. So look at that Steinbach paper, and even you can go. One of the things about this openness and transparency in research is that public health research study, mislabeled reduced crime. It was originally only about reduced crime because councils were turning lights off because of saving money, basically. Back in talking a few years ago now. Oh, sorry, where was I? Sorry, I've lost this.
Oh, that's okay. A lot of information coming out.
Yeah, but do look at it. It's open access. If you can find the study, it's on the Public Health Research website, the Public Health, and look through. There's all the articles. It tells you how much it costs, and importantly, they tell the protocol. The protocol of a study is what was planned, because people can then, if they've got data, you can fiddle about with data until you find the answer you like, and that shouldn't happen. And that's what's done in registering clinical trials. In medicine, you're not allowed to do that. You say what you're going to do before you do it, and that's the way you're tested. Okay.
Well, thank you, Paul. So we're getting close to the end. So I'm kind of hoping we can all just have a little bit of time so we can talk a little bit about what we see, or maybe the future a bit. So Amira, we'll just start with you, kind of like some closing thoughts or kind of things you want to share with everyone.
I just rushed into my presentation, so I don't know if people got really involved on the topic, but I want to make sure that people get interested, because I think this is a huge opportunity for us to start making implementations on light pollution policies in Mozambique, and also help the communities have the basic need of lighting, and also prevent light pollution problems from happening. So as from coming from a developing country, I hope to create a huge platform in order for others to be educated on the matter, like general public, but also like have this contrast between helping people have the electricity access and also in a sustainable way. So the thing is that I'm studying astronomy, and I had always wanted to help my people through my passion. And so this is a perfect way I found of like mixing both topics, astrophysics, like conserving the night skies, and also like sustainable development. And also this thing of wildlife conservation I find very interesting, because my country is very famous for that. We have lots of biodiversity. So I also want to make this important point that light pollution does not affect only human beings. We're talking about animals, we're talking about wildlife. So we have lots of national parks that must be preserved, and we're not just talking about the night sky, we're talking about, as I said, wildlife. So we have to think about them and find new ways in order to live like with them, not only considering about our own needs, but their own needs too, because we are part of nature. So that's the thing I wanted to reinforce. And well, as I said, the project is still on an initial phase. So we would like to improve the model in order to at least make a kind of like first model and apply in a certain place with the help of others, of course, because as I said, I'm not from that area. I'm not electrician. I do not know everything. So yeah, that's the plan ahead. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Amira. Thank you for all the work you're doing. So thank you very much. Paul, anything you want to add in our closing?
What I would say is I hope people will encourage other statisticians to be involved in this work, and indeed take an interest in statistical matters themselves. And statistical evidence is a bit like legal evidence. It has to be admissible. It can't be just any old bit of stuff that comes along. It has to be, well collected and have relevance to the matter. It is very similar to that. So yeah, have a look at have a look at the evidence, basically good evidence and proper evidence. That's the thing for me.
Right, Paul. Well, thank you very much for that too, and thank you for sharing again all that knowledge you have and how we can put that together. I want to end it too with, again, I'm sorry we didn't get to answer everyone's question going through this. We have a lot of good chat going on the side. But what I would like to see too as part of this is just more education. Again, sometimes we don't speak the same language. And these workshops, the things that we do as a society really helps us as we work with security professionals and law enforcement and people that are out there at night, just enjoying the sky. What are those minimum standards? Because for me, it's all about standards and code. But understanding what that code is and understanding, as Paul mentioned, the data and Amir, the impact it has on the wildlife and our overall health. Once we can communicate with that and really, as a group, set some of those requirements or understanding, I think we'll be very successful in the future. So thank you all very much for that too. And I want to thank our group putting this, Amir and Paul. Thank you so much. I mean, so much information. And early in the morning for me. So thank you guys.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. This is a huge platform for me to share like this project, and I'm really grateful because I always thought that it would be great for me to get in touch with DarkSky because you're a huge organization talking about this matter. So I hope we can collaborate with each other, and I hope to learn more about the topic because I find it very interesting. And I'm a new learner on this, so I hope I can learn a lot more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I want to thank Chris and Michael, Betty, Mike. Thank you guys so much from DarkSky for managing it, keeping us all together, keeping us in line as we put this together and all the information. Thank you all for being part of this. I really appreciate it. Chris, I'll turn it over to you if there's anything you want to add before we all leave. But other than that, thank everyone for being part of this. I appreciate you being part of the Under One Sky, Unite to Protect the Night, and then being part of the Safety Engagement Workshop. So thank you all very, very much. And hopefully we'll see you at some of the workshops. So thank you. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.